Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam
Narayanam Namaskritam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudire
Tato Jaya Mudire
Nashtaprayasva Bhadresu
Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Sloke
Bhagavati Uttam Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki.
Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, titled The Divisions of Faith. And today's verse number is verse number 7. Aharastva api sarvasya
Aharastvapi sarvasya
trividho bhavati priya
Trividho Bhavati Priyaha
yajnastapastatha danam
Yagnastapastata Danam
tesam hedam imam shrunu.
Tesham Vedam Imam Sunu
Aharastva api sarvasya
Aharastvapi sarvasya
trividho bhavati priya
Trividho Bhavati Priyaha
yajnastapastatha danam
Yagnastapastata Danam
tesam hedam imam shrunu.
Tesham Vedam Imam Sunu
Any Prabhujis or Matajis?
Aharastvapi sarvasya
Aharastva api sarvasya
Trividho Bhavati Priyaha
trividho bhavati priya
Yagnastapastata Danam
yajnastapastatha danam
Tesham Vedam Imam Sunu
tesam hedam imam shrunu.
Aharastvapi sarvasya
Aharastva api
Aharastvapi
sarvasya
sarvasya
trivido bhavati priyaha
Trividho Bhavati Priyaha
yajnastapas tatha danam
Yagnastapastata
yajnastapastatha danam
Danam
tesang bhedam iman sruno.
Tesham
tesam
Vedam
hedam
Imam
imam shrunu.
Sunu
Aharatu api sarvasyam
Aharastva api
Aharastvapi
sarvasya
sarvasya
trivido bhavati priyaha
trividho
Trividho
bhavati priya
Bhavati Priyaha
yajna tapas tatha danam
Yajnastapas tatha
yajnastapastatha
danam
danam
Yagnastapastata
tam bhedam imam sunu
tesam
Tesam
hedam
Vedam
imam shrunu.
Imam Sunu
Word by word meaning. Ahara, eating.
Ahara eating
Tu, certainly.
Too certainly
Api, also.
api
We also
Sarvasya, of everyone.
of
Sarvasya of everyone.
everyone
Trividha, of three kind.
Trividha of three
Trivida
kinds.
of three kinds
Bhavati, there is.
Bhavati there
Bhavati
is.
there is
Priya, dear.
Priya
Priya dear
Yajna, sacrifice.
Yajna
Yagya
sacrifice.
sacrifice
Tapa, austerity.
tapa
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 austerity.
austerity
Tatha, also.
tatha
Tatha also
Danam, charity.
Danam charity.
Danam charity
Tesam, of them.
Tesam of them.
Tesam of them
Vedam, the differences.
Vedam the
Vedam the
differences.
differences
Imam, this.
Imam
Imam this
Shrunu, here.
Srunu
Sunu
here.
here
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Swami Prabhupada ki jai.
Vijay
Even the food
Even the food,
even the food
each person prefers
each person prefers
person prefers
is of three kinds,
is of
is
three
of
three
three
kinds.
kinds.
according to the three modes of material nature.
According to the three
According
modes
to
of
the
material
three
nature.
modes of material nature.
The same is true of sacrifices,
The same is
The
true of
same is true of the
sacrifices,
sacrifices,
austerities,
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 and charity.
and charity.
and charity.
Now hear of the distinction between them.
Now
Now
here the
Now, here
distinctions
of the
between
distinction between them.
Any Prabhuji or Mataji would like to read this page?
In terms of different situations in the modes of material nature, there are differences in the manner of eating and performing sacrifices, austerities, and charities. They are not all conducted on the same level. Those who can understand analytically what kind of performances are in what modes of material nature are actually wise. Those who consider all kinds of sacrifice or food or charity to be the same cannot discriminate, and they are foolish. There are missionary workers who advocate that one can do whatever he likes and attain perfection. But these foolish guides are not acting according to direction of the scripture. They are manufacturing ways and misleading the people in general.
Thank you, Prabhu. Let's all chant together. Agyana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurmritam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yudavada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataruvescha Kripa Sindhu Vaivacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivash Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nilachara Nivasa Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhya Jagannathayati Namah. So thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha. And this chapter, as we started last week, is essentially talking about the divisions of faith. And in the division of faith, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is telling to Arjuna about four things and how the modes of material nature, how the nature of a given person affects these four things. So what are the four things? Aharasto api sarvasya. Ahara, what we eat, based on the different modes of our faith and modes of material nature, how it has affected us. Our food habits are different. The food habit of a person who is in the mode of goodness is different from a person, the food habits of a person who is in mode of passion or mode of ignorance. Likewise, Krishna is saying, likewise, that there are trivido bhavati priya. That means there are three kinds of divisions, and these three kinds of divisions are driven by the modes of material nature. And in addition to that, in addition to the food, aharascha, yajna. Yajna means sacrifice. How a person ends up doing sacrifice in the mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. Tapas, austerity, and danam, the donation or the charity the person is giving out, is going to be different based on, and there is differences. And how Krishna is saying this? Bhedam means difference. Bhed means difference, right? So Krishna is so beautifully saying, and Imam Shrunu, that means he's telling Arjuna, listen to me. So aharastu api sarvascha trivido bhavati priya yajnas tapas tatha danam tesam bhedam imam shrunu. So he's telling Arjuna, listen Arjuna, I'm going to tell you the differences between how these four things vary with the importance of faith or the material nature, how it has affected us. So very beautiful verse. And Krishna in the next 12 verses, food, he's spending 3 verses. Then sacrifice, he's spending 3 more verses. Austerity, he's spending 3 more verses. And charity, he's spending 3 more verses. So Krishna is giving this summary or the gist in this verse 17.7, and the next verse so beautifully, so scientifically. That's why Bhagavad Gita is a supreme science, is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is letting you about the summary, and now he's going to break it down into 12 verses, and these 12 verses are going to be the ahara, goodness, passion, ignorance, likewise yagya, tapa, and dhanam. Beautifully explained. And if we go deep into it, ahara means eating, yagya means sacrifice, tapa means austerity, dhanam means charity. So these 4 things, if you look at these 4 things in the vertical y-axis, and in the horizontally you have the goodness, passion, ignorance. So you can definitely think that these 4 attributes, our habit of eating, our habit of sacrifice, our habit of austerity, habit of charity, and how it kind of intermingles with our division of faith in terms of where we are situated. And this varies. It's a very complicated subject, but it varies with time, it varies with consciousness. So when you think about this, see, if you think about now, our Nrsimha Chaturdasi is coming, and Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakasipu. Hiranyakasipu was actually a person. Hiranya means he was gold. He was absolutely, he was around gold. He was looking for rich activities. And now also you have people who are looking for a lot of property, a lot of gold, a lot of crave for how to get more and more rich. Hiranyakashipu was of that mindset. But Hiranyakasipu, prior to getting this boon, he was actually standing in one leg. He was doing sacrifices. He was doing austerity. He was giving charity. But his intent of giving all this, doing all this, is to benefit himself so that he can never be killed during daytime, nighttime, by a man or animal. And it is so complicated that in order to nail him down, Lord has to take a different form, half lion, half man, neither in the daytime nor in the nighttime, right in the point of intersection, not in the ground, not in the air. So it had to be in the lap of Nrsimhadev. So the intent of his activities, intent of his sacrifices, intent of his austerity, intent of his charity were totally in a direction which was not conscious. Likewise, Ravana, for example, he was a great Brahmana, and we talked about eugenics last time, where his dad was actually a rishi and his mother was a demoniac personality, and it was a union of them. So he was a very powerful person because he had Brahminical genes, because he was very, very, very powerful. So it was a setup, actually. It was a setup by the mother's father to get his progenitors in a very good outcome, because they, at the time, the rishis were the brahmanas, and they were always on the right side of the scriptures. So the knowledge was very important. If the knowledge is misused, like how it is misused during nuclear activities, knowledge is good, but in order to, when the knowledge is misused by the knowledgeable people, it becomes very tough to really control. That's why these brahmanas, eventually, when they have demoniac activities, they become Brahma Rakshasas, which are very, very difficult to control. So he was doing all kind of penances, sacrifices, austerity, charity. But what was he What was the outcome of all of that? And eventually he was sacrificing, he was giving his head on sacrifice. But the intent of the sacrifice, or the consciousness with which the sacrifices were made, the austerities were made, is for personal gains. And that is what resulted. And he was basically looking for, his personal sense gratification, looking for, physical pleasure. And in doing so, he could see no one, and he could eventually have to steal the goddess of fortune, the Mother Sita, who is actually the consort of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in that mindset of doing sacrifices, austerity, charity, if the consciousness is not aligned, what good is the sacrifice? Likewise, his brother Vibhishan, he was not doing all this, cutting his head and offering. He was not really, he was simply chanting the names of the Lord. He was simply focusing on cleansing his consciousness. The same uh, brother from the same parents, but different consciousness, following the names of the Lord, eventually got the mercy of the Lord. Like Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, he was born from a demoniac person, but his actions were full of consciousness. So, so these are a bit technicalities in terms of how we want to differentiate. So in eating, when you think about pickle, which is actually mentioned towards the later part of this chapter, that anything which is pungent, which is sour, it gives you that element of ignorance. And likewise, if you want to eat something with the intent to pacify your senses, you feel good momentarily, but indirectly it basically gets you a lot of cholesterol. It's a mode of a passion, like the mixture, not specifically talking about this mixture per se, because anything you end up doing where you are not, where the object of the end game is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then it is bound to have consequences. So sour, pungent, something which is rotten for months and years, like pickle, are often the mode of ignorance. But it cannot be generalized. There are fresh pickles made. But this is just a talking point in terms of how we should select what we eat. And sometimes when we feel like in the evening, you feel like eating a mixture, and that gives you that element of passion. But milk, for example, when a milk is offered to the Lord and you eat, it doesn't have any side effects. And, nowadays there is a lot of talk around milk giving you acid, is all because the milk which is available outside are not milk. That's why they do some kind of processing around it eventually, and it looks white, but they are actually not milk. That's why we recommend you take cruel-free milk from the creameries, which they hand it over to temple, which go through the process of real milk. That's why it's very costly. But beyond the point, milk is in the mode of goodness. The mixture in this example, it's an example by the way, they may have very good products. It's not a question of talking about the product per se. Is the our ability to eat mixture to gratify our senses is a mode of passion. Likewise, anything which is sour, pungent, old, not fresh, they're often in the mode of ignorance. And likewise, yajna, for example, sacrifice. So you might have heard about sacrifices getting done where there's a lot of black magic in terms to hurt somebody in order to really give pain or inflict pain on somebody. These are very, very temporary practices which never helps anyone. And likewise, there are some people who will tell you that in terms of mantra tantra, they can get some form of siddhi, and and these kind of siddhis are basically to give them powers so that they end up doing something which is not conscious. But when you do Sankirtana Yajna, you're basically chanting the names of the Lord, glories of the Lord, hearing about the glories of the Lord from a bona fide source. That is in the mode of goodness. So these examples are to be used in the right context. and whenever we do some austerity, and whenever you see politicians, they're fasting during this. Generally you do fasting during Ekadasi, but at the same time when the politicians are fasting, during strike, they may have some political motive, this, that, and all, but these are all to gain some benefit, to gain some ignorance. They don't know that the fasting has to be done for the pleasure of the Lord, but trying to do fasting, they're basically doing some show. And likewise, if when you have different corporates, they're installing hospitals and colleges, they have a personal benefit. They may have benefit of getting tax benefit. They may have the underlying benefit of thinking about, name, fame. So there is that austerity is typically not connected with a conscious, but hearing Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, waking up early in the morning to attend Mangalarati at 4:30 a.m. They are definitely austerity, which is of the mode of goodness. So when you see all these three examples, you have the first thing is the mode of ignorance in the bullet, and then the mode of passion, and uh, and the mode of goodness. Likewise, when you give charity, if you give charity to alcoholic, it eventually lands up, and he basically buys alcohol. That's it is your ignorance that this person. So this karmic reactions are very complicated to understand. Sometimes many great personalities have not truly understood the importance of this karmic prarabdha karma, and sometimes we end up doing something based on our that's the reason why we all are recommended to read Bhagavad Gita closely. You keep reading Bhagavad Gita again and again and again. Srila Prabhupada used to read his own Bhagavad Gita several times, because when he reads Bhagavad Gita, his own writings, he says he's conversing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's the reason why once you read Bhagavad Gita again and again and again, you realize there is so much of power in our ability to lead a life in the right way, in the right prescribed Vedic spiritual way, which is recommended. That's why Bhagavad Gita is transcendental. It transcends all the modes, and at the end of the day, it gives a very correct scientific understanding of how to lead your life. And likewise, in the uh, mode of uh, passion, Bali Maharaj, before the pastime with the Pavan with Vamana Dev happened, Bali Maharaj was a very charitable person. He was giving. He was Danavir Bali Maharaj. So that had an initial puffed up ego to Bali Maharaj, and in order to quash the ego, Vamana Dev had to come, and in his third pace, he delivered him, because in that pastime, Bali Maharaj, even if he's a very conscious person, he had the inherent proudiness, which basically led to the mode of passion when he was giving charitable contribution. And the other, the thing which is very pious in our ability to do charity, which is the mode of goodness, when you do Godan, or when you do Kanyadan, or when you do Dhandan to a favorable object and subject. So these are some of the examples, and we are going to go deep. I don't know which verse we're going to catch next time, but then these 12 individual points are exemplified so nicely in the Bhagavad Gita, and as the subsequent. So if we do not go through, but I encourage all of you to read individually, and Krishna has gone in to explain in these 12 verses. That's why Bhagavad Gita is a science where the topics and the chapters and sub-chapters are so beautifully explained, and when this explanation has to be understood. So if you go deep into each of them and look at Krishna's explanation as to why ahara in the mode of goodness is better than mode of passion and ignorance, and how Srila Prabhupada has kind of broadened it. It's a wonderful reading for all of you. So take to the reading. But we just give example here. So here you see there is Lord Krishna. He is looking at a golden lizard in a well. So it's a beautiful pastime. How your prarabdha karma can give you a wrong impetus on giving charity. So, so thousands of years ago, Lord Krishna's son Samba was playing with his brothers in a picnicking place in a forest. And when he saw when their ball went into a well, so he saw a very glowing, effulgent lizard inside the well. Okay, so Samba went and told his dad, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purna Purushottam Krishna, that dad, we saw something in the well. So can you come and check it out? So Lord Krishna comes, as you can see, looks down at the lizard and touches. The lizard becomes a very effulgent, a very beautiful person, and the person explained his pastime. So the pastime is this person was once upon a time King Ruga. In King Ruga was a very charitable person. So he gave away charity to the Brahmanas. And when the charity was given to the Brahmana, so he gave some cows to a Brahmana. But by mistake, one of the cows came back from the charity. Neither the Brahmana knew it, nor the nor King Rugra knew it. But and and that cow had gone into another pile of charity. So when this Brahmana went home and realized that he's a cow short, he came back. And then when they started doing counting, they realized that it was indeed a fault that the charity was not given in the right proportion. And because of the Brahmana's curse, that the charity was wrongly deposited and it was not equally disposed, King Durga had to become a golden lizard. It's there in the Krishna book. It's a very beautiful pastime. You should read from Krishna book as to why all these things are so well connected. The, the scriptures are giving a reflection about how to lead our life based on the happenings around the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his subjects. So if in this example, as you can see, the unequal distribution without the fault of the king resulted in impious activities. And because of that, the subject of the recipient who you are giving the charity to and the object of charity, in this example, the cow, is important, because unknowingly you may end up doing something which will cause challenges in your life. There are many things we do it with our anger consciousness, with our cool consciousness, sometimes with material consciousness, with our passionate consciousness. The outcomes, the decision outcomes are very different. And unknowingly, we may end up doing a lot of things which creates a lot of problems for so many other persons in the situation. So I hope this explains to you about how carefully we should judge our food, our sacrifices, our austerities, and charity, and hope you took some inspiration from this wonderful pastime of King Durga, and how, in spite of being a very charitable personality, King Karna, as you know, was a very charitable person, but he had the bad association of Duryodhana, and how he went down and down and down in spite of being such a valor, such a person of valor and such a person of righteousness, but the bad association So good and bad has to be understood from the context of the consciousness. If the consciousness is not right, you can do the entire, you can stand on one leg, stand on your head upside down. But if the consciousness is not right, then nothing is going to happen which is good to you. So our method is very simple. It's a society where we profess on being Krishna conscious. Be aware, be conscious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and think that you are the subjects and you are always at his service. Any action, reaction, the decision you end up doing, as long as it is dovetailed for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is going to be positive. It's going to be very sublime and blissful. Anything other than that, there are scope for improvement and there are challenges, as Krishna is so beautifully saying. So we can go on, but like to end here. Like to hear some of your comments, corrections, reflections. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any comments? Anybody?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So very nice class, Prabhuji. So what I understood, anything, whatever charity that we do in this yoga, if it is not related to, Krishna consciousness, so it could be a trap. So it might be a trap. I think 100% it is a trap. So, but I heard somewhere, Prabhuji, you are, this is very much 100% true what you mentioned, Prabhuji, because somewhere I heard a long time back that if somebody is considering that, okay, they are making a well or water, they may consider that, okay, they are doing, a good charitable activity. But if a cow or any animal falls down, then for so many birth lives, this person and the family get cursed for that, offense. So analyzing on those stuff, I feel that, okay, whatever charity we do, if it is not contributed to Krishna consciousness, either through Sastradan or for the charity or for the benefit of the temple or anything, then I think, yeah, there is a risk associated with it. So anything everywhere. So I feel that.
Definitely. Great point. Because you have created something with your intent that you will do this help that people are not getting water, but you have not done enough work to make the process of creating some nets around or keeping the water chlorinated or whatever the case may be. And at some point in time, if you do not end up looking at those aspects, there will be consequences which are not favorable, and that is when who would earn that bad karma. So when you think about it, that's exactly why we have to take counsel of making the right decision and do the right decision in relationship to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because Supreme Personality of Godhead relationship is not about just doing something. It basically gives you principles based on which we can end up doing something right. And I learned that from your comment that if a cow falls down, there are consequences of that. So people are building so many things, but at the end of the day, they are not really taking care of those material objects, and eventually it becomes a very bad situation for others to manage. Thank you for sharing, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dhanavad pranam, Guru Shri
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Prabhuji, as you have rightly, very clearly explained what is in the subsequent verses, you have very clearly explained the demarcation of the Yagna, Tapa, Dana, and Prabhuji.
Ahara.
I just want to second that saying that these are all nothing but the progression from mode of ignorance to mode of passion to mode of goodness to Shuddha Sattva. So all these, the way you have written, Prabhuji, from there only I got this point, that from the pickle to the Haldiram's mixture to the milk, right, to Krishna Prasadam, right? That is the basically the, so in this process, we should not be worried where we are, even if we are in the mode of ignorance. Our endeavors through this, the principle of ABCD association, books, chanting, and diet, basically takes us, transforms our consciousness from the mode of ignorance. And slowly, if we continue practicing Krishna consciousness, what happens is that the mode of ignorance turns slowly into a hybrid of ignorance, passion, then into passion, then passion and goodness, then the mode of goodness. So it's a journey, Prabhuji, and we should strive. And Bhagavad Gita is the call for action, as it is not just a dry philosophy, but it's a call for action through these ABCD principles to transform our consciousness. So there is no harm in eating pickle or anything initially, because that is in we are ignorance, we didn't know what it is. Pickle in the sense it shouldn't be pungent, because of course to the body it is definitely harmful because it erodes your HCl layers of the intestine. But the taste buds and the taste, when we get captured by those, it has a side effect for that. So, but if we eat Krishna Prasam which offered to Krishna, it's automatically that is taken care of. That's why we don't offer. You may say that how can I, if I offer a pickle and eat, how can it be? That's why even what we have to offer is also have been regulated, like what we have to offer to Krishna also. Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, right? They did not tell that make the most spicy pickle and offer it to Krishna. It's not. It's as close as to the nature. So Krishna is trying to tell us that be close to the nature and be close to the surrounding ambient nature and be close to your nature and transform your nature into the Krishna consciousness through these principles. Right. So that is a gradual gradation of this, Prabhuji. It may not happen overnight, but we have to strive for it, and that we will be going through the journey.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing. See, Radharani is also called Nitya Navina. So whenever she used to offer things to Krishna, never ever she has offered the same item again to Krishna. What that means is all her offerings to Krishna is always fresh, Nitya Navina, always new, and always very thoughtful, and that's why she's the greatest devotee of the Lord, right? So it doesn't mean that we'll get there, as you said, it's a journey, but that's a very principled view of the aspect of the pickle, in the sense, there are pickles actually in our temple. When they offer, they make it fresh to the Lord. Also, sometimes it may be slightly old, but what is recommended is, if you want to offer pickle, make it fresh, and there is absolutely no issue with that. So in terms of the scriptural angle. So thank you. It's a journey.
No, Prabhuji, my point is pickle is fine, Prabhuji, but the proportion, like for example, we at Andhra Pradesh, especially from Guntur, we think that by putting a lot of red chilies will make it more tastier and right, Prabhuji?
Right.
So we should not strive for that. Pickle, I'm not against the pickle. I'm telling the pickle has to be made such that it is sattvic.
Sattvic, yeah.
The pickle has to be sattvic, Prabhuji. So our endeavor should be also, our thought process should be sattvic, nearing sattvic, Prabhuji. Like, not, I won't say that day one we will be sattvic, but all our endeavors, efforts should be sattvic, and which comes through food, of course, definitely, Prabhuji, because we are what we eat, right? There is a saying in English, we are what we eat. So it regulates our physical body as well as spiritual consciousness and our mental, because if you eat a lot of passion, a lot of pungent things, it will be passionate, and your thinking will also be passionate, Prabhuji.
Right.
So Krishna is trying to correlate all of these to the final destination of becoming Shuddha Sattva, Prabhuji.
Exactly.
And he's giving us the recipe for that, basically.
Yeah. So the recipe is there. The call for action is there.
Right.
It's for us to pick it up and implement them in our lives.
Right, Prabhuji. And that's what the Bhakti Vriksha is, where we are learning from each other and we are trying to, okay, we may not implement 100%, but we are getting there. We should get there through our transformation of consciousness by starting practicing some things. Okay, dana, let's start with by giving a temple $10 if you can't afford more, whatever that, right? So Krishna doesn't need the $10, but the act of giving transforms your consciousness, Prabhuji. That is what the most important point. The act of giving, it's a sacrifice, right? You are sacrificing your $10, which you could do for your personal benefit, something. But the act of saying, okay, Krishna, I am giving this $10, I want to do something good for the temple or for the society in general, then automatically we are transforming our consciousness.
Right, bro. Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. Any other comments or thoughts?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Welcome back. Dandavat Pranam.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have a question. So basically, when we see the beggar, right, we feel pity and sometimes we give money to the beggar, okay, but we don't know the intention or how he is going to use that money, right? So in that case, should we give charity to the beggar or not?
See, Prabhu, see, sometimes there are healthy beggars, there are handicapped, challenged beggars, and sometimes, most of the time, you'll see in various different streets, you'll find they are mostly into drugs, and so when you start giving, it gives you that feeling, right? Prabhu mentioned that you give the tender, you feel good about it. That feeling good is probably the reason why you are initiating to give something. But at the end of the day, if he resorts to things like the challenged beggar in this example, he has nowhere to go, and you see that there's definitely some advantage that he is not getting food to eat. There is probably some pious angle, but if he is sort of doing unthinkable things, then it's better not to prolong that attitude, and that's the reason why there are many temples or many dhams where the government is taking action to remove them from the, because it's giving a totally different perspective about our spiritual practices. they feel that people with charitable mind, as Krishna is mentioning here, the charity angle are coming, and they are good candidate, and that's the reason why they can make. So we have to be a bit selective there, Prabhu. So we have to be selective in the sense wherein if we think it will help in getting some food to the table, or he's kind of homeless, and he's used it nicely. So it's a judgment which we have to say, but at the same time, not be cruel enough. So the point here is how we should lead our life in such a way that we have compassion. See, compassion is a spirit we all have, and nowadays with a lot of things you see in this world, people are not becoming compassionate. So that's a trait which we really do not want to close. We should have compassion for devotees. We should have compassion for us, but at the same time, we should recognize that if it is a a challenging person, he's handicapped, there is definitely merit, Prabhu. So I will not say it will be cruel to not deny that, but at the same time, be aware of the principles Krishna is mentioning here, and I'm sure with more and more reading and reading, your ability to decide then and there will improve. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Did you go to Jagannath Puri this time?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So where
actually, actually, I was planned a lot of things. But when we landed in India, like we all are sick. Then my mother kind of very critical, so she admitted in a hospital in ICU. So she was in ICU almost like 7 to 8 days in Visakhapatnam. Yeah. Then finally, actually, I was planned to go to Vrindavan in Dwarika this time, but I was not able to due to my mother is not well. But at the end, actually, I was able to make it to Puri at least to visit, and I will give you the prasadam, Prabhu, when we visit the temple.
Sure. If you're coming tomorrow at 7:30, we can distribute Jagannath Puri Mahaprasad in the community hall. If you're coming next Sunday, let me know. We can plan accordingly.
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Prabhuji, can I answer that question or not answer the question? Can I say another perspective of that?
Sure. Go ahead,
it may not. It may not go as per our class, or but just another thought. God has given the boon to many demons, right? And they have misutilized, right? So misutilized, and then Lord Vishnu has come and different avatars, right? Like so many are there. So that's different thing. So we see somebody, the beggar is sitting and begging. So we are impressed, not impressed. We feel that okay, in the need, right? So we do our job, we give some money. Okay. So afterwards, what happens? That is not our turn, right? We did our job, we punya, or after that, what happens? How, whether that money goes to drugs or received, or that it's not it's not way to verify that, right? Just my perspective.
Okay. Yeah. So you're feeling compassionate to give it out. Definitely, that's your perspective. But as more and more, you'll see. I mean, actually it happened to me and many times. The person really took the money and immediately started smoking. So those are some of the.
You are convinced, as long as you are convinced that the person is in need of help.
Right. At the time, I regretted why I did that. So those are some considerations. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Definitely.
And Prabhuji, as Himan Panda Prabhu told, there are regulations. Krishna clearly explains when he's explaining about the charity that how a compassionate who is in mode of ignorance, how he thinks. what is charity and who is in mode of business and who is in mode of passion. So I would say, as Prabhuji told, that this is all revealed to you at the time when you are trying to be compassionate, and if because Krishna is there in everyone's heart, they know that is there a need for the other person. He will give you the thought process or the judgment that you feel that you want to give or not. So that will come to you, Prabhuji. When you pray for it, it will come to you, Prabhuji, and that will basically one perspective. Personally, I think I want to share, Prabhuji. I will not say that this is what we give. We give. I won't say charity, Prabhuji, because it's not our money. We we part some of our some percentage of our contribution to temple, right? Some people say, why can't you give that to the charity organizations, and why temple, Prabhuji? First of all, I want to give some perspective on that, Prabhuji. First of all, temple is a mental uh,
Hospital.
yeah, it's a mental clinic, Prabhuji. Whether you consider it or not, there is a mental healing there for everyone. So that is the topmost. And two, Prabhuji, when we have issues, when we have difficulties, we say, Krishna, it is you handle it and you do it, whatever you. Some when you are in it, especially in decision making, right? When you are in a fix and you are trying to decide something, you say, Krishna, I don't know, it's your call. You tell what you want to do. Now, when you are giving to charity, why should we be decisive that, okay, why should I give it to temple? I will go and give it to some old age home or somewhere, you may think. But Krishna knows that who has to be where, and he has all is well and rightly put. There is a saying, right, Prabhuji? I think I forgot the author. All is well and wisely put. So what my understanding is, Prabhuji, when in the need of the need, we say that Krishna, we are dependent on you. But when you are trying to give, if you try to be judgmental, like, oh, should I give to temple or should I give to some other organization which is doing some service? First of all, we don't know how much of that is going to the, but say 100% of that is also going to the actual needy people. Krishna will give that intelligence for us to give, or he will enlighten us. Maybe first year you will give, second year he will enlighten you that this is not the pace. But there is 100% insurance and guarantee and satisfaction if you give it to the temple, because Krishna doesn't need the money, but he, one, transforms your consciousness, and two, he sends, he is the one who knows where the money, who the money should go to also, right? So that is how I am seeing, Prabhuji, that at the time of giving, let's not be decisive. Especially to temple, I'm talking, Prabhuji.
Right, right.
Give to Krishna, and he will decide what to do. He knows, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Because we trust him on other things, but we can't say that this I will take the decision because I'm giving.
Right.
Just one point I wanted to, my
Yeah.
realization I wanted
Yeah.
to make.
During the time of good, we forget, and during the time of crisis, we remember, hey Krishna, what did you do? But and right, very rightly said that we have to be because this is a mental hospital in a way, and we're trying to go there for peace and tranquility. Our focus, when people hear kirtan, their minds are totally focused, and it brings up the calm and recharges you for Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesday meetings, right on Sunday evening. That's the reason why we recharge ourselves by going to the temple, so that we bring the right consciousness and spread it around. Otherwise, people are getting into parties with a very anger consciousness. They're resorting, they're landing in offices and creating all kind of. So we more and more consciousness develops in all of us, the world will be a much better place. And very nice comments from all of us, all of you devotees. Any other comments? This is turning out to be a wonderful discussion, but It's already an hour, but any other thoughts before we close? I see a lot of Prabhujis and Matajis have joined today. We will. Any other thoughts from anyone?
Prabhuji, Visakhapatnam, I meet with Nitya Sabini Mataji. I visited to ISKCON temple,
Nice.
Visakhapatnam. So
Hari
yeah.
Bol.
So actually, I always, watched our videos through Zoom or something. I didn't get a chance to meet personally. So yeah, I meet personally and take her blessings.
Awesome. So did the complete Sagar Nagar temple? That's where you met her?
Yeah, so that is in still progress. That is partially completed, Prabhuji. Still, it is in going. Yeah.
Okay. So the altar is in the when you go in, it's on the left side, right?
Right.
That
Yes.
building. Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful temple, right in front of the
See. Yeah.
sea. It's a Sagar Nagar is, and Mataji. Mataji has comes to our ICNJ channel, Zoom channel before, and she's coming in near future. You'll see some flyers. So Mataji is she's very impactful in terms of preaching. Very nice. Thank you. So you met her?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, I schedule an appointment. Basically, she's very busy.
Hmm.
So as my mother is in Visakhapatnam in hospital, so I find some time and try to schedule an appointment with her, and I meet for 30 minutes with mother.
Awesome. Did you stay in the guest house or you stayed somewhere else?
I stayed near to my hospital because she's in ICU, so I can
Okay.
get call any point of time.
Yeah. Sorry to hear about the health challenges, Prabhu. Nice. Thank you for sharing your. I had been to ISKCON Visakhapatnam in 2016. I stayed there in their guest house for 3-4 days. I went with my parents and my in-laws, 5 of us. It was a wonderful experience. Very nice temple, beautiful Lord Jagannath, and nice. Thank you so much. Simhachalam, did you go? Prabhuji is commenting. Did you go to Simhachalam?
No, Prabhuji. I need time. Yeah.
Yeah, Simhachalam is beautiful as well. It's around 15 kilometers from Visakhapatnam up the hill.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your pilgrimage with your Bhakti Vriksha members.
Hare Krishna Babu, Dandavat Pranam, this is Sagar Nagar is the Andhra Pradesh, this is you're talking about, or Odisha?
Sagar Nagar is a place in Visakhapatnam where we have the ISKCON temple right on the beach. There is a marine drive, and this temple ISKCON has been trying to construct for more than 10 years. So it's gradually, it's a big project, So Sagar Nagar is a place within, like Edison is a place within New Jersey, right? Likewise, Sagar Nagar is a place within Visakhapatnam.
Oh, okay.
So if you search ISKCON Sagar Nagar, this is the temple we are talking about, where Nitai Savini Mataji is there, Samba Prabhu is there. They're taking care of the project for quite some time. It's a big project.
Okay.
And they are also doing a lot of food for life, giving meals to the schools in Visakhapatnam. There's a big project happening there.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. So,
Whenever you go, take your parents there. They will definitely like the Visakhapatnam experience. Visakhapatnam is a very prominent place in our movement. So, and there is Nrsingadev there. I mean, Simhachalam is there.
Yes. So this is Vizag, right?
Vizag.
Visakhapatnam, right?
Vizag.
Okay.
Any other comments? So let's end here. Thank you so much. Any other thoughts before we end here? Thank you so much for your comments.
Your mother, Prabhuji, Niranjan Prabhu, we will keep her in our prayers.
Yeah. So let's pray for Niranjan Prabhu's mother by chanting Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakalpataruvascha kripa sindhuvaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Vaishnavavrinda ki jai, Bhagavad Gita की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल।